introduce yourself and tell everyone who you are.
All right, I'm Eric Johnson. I'm a systems engineer for PrinterLogic.
PrinterLogic is one of IGEL's best partners. You've worked with them a lot. Talk a little bit about what PrinterLogic does in the evolving world of end-user computing, if you would.
So what's interesting about end-user computing is that we're presented with these interesting challenges in that space. It's all about scalability and how to deliver solutions to to different workforces. We're starting to see a lot of mobility, and I think that's really interesting from a printing perspective because it presents some inherent challenges. With our solution, we're actually integrated with IGEL. We're part of their UMS. So what we do is we actually facilitate their printing in a way that allows for direct IP printing to take place. It simplifies the management of an infrastructure, brings that all to a central location. I mean, that's a huge component of end-user computing, is having that centralized management, and it's relative to that scaling conversation. So that's kind of where we fit in with IGEL.
Are you creating a world where you can print anything somewhere from any device?
As long as you have an internet connection, we can facilitate the management of your printing infrastructure, push things down from the cloud, and manage that all centrally. So yeah, the days of like a LAN cable connected to a device are definitely over for the most part.
And obviously, more and more millennials and now Gen Zers are coming into the workforce. They're used to having a device that fits in their hand, and they're young enough they can still actually read everything. Their eyes are good enough, but they're used to being able to do anything from their hand. How are you enabling that, and how are you and IGEL helping to enable that?
That's a great question. I saw an article that the CEO of IGEL wrote about. I think he cited that maybe like 2.5 different devices for every end user is basically what they're working from. So yeah, I'm working from my phone all the time. When a print problem comes up, PrinterLogic can handle that as well. So we're able to facilitate a mobile print solution that's very viable, whether you're dealing with like an iOS device, an Android device, or really anything that's going to have the capability to do email, we can facilitate that as well. And then we can transition really effectively to the typical workstation as well.
And how has the partnership been with IGEL? They've obviously been helping taking a whole new level of computing to places and to devices that people thought were dead or were so far out there on the edge they were irrelevant. And you're helping change that, right?
They're really innovative. I just think of like the UD Pocket and how much like that affects an actual infrastructure. Like you're thinking about like a refresh in your environment, and there's all these hardware costs and things like that. So they come in with something like that, and you're able to use this UD Pocket to make it so now you don't have to refresh that fleet. That's really exciting. So I think for us, the ability to work with that and to deal with like a zero client or fat client infrastructure or do both makes it a really good strategic partnership. And then just working with them has been awesome because their innovation, they know exactly what they can do. And within those parameters, we fit really well. After we started that partnership, it was just really cool to see them kind of take what we do and not require any manipulation of what we do to deliver something very effective that keeps our solution true. Customers of PrinterLogic are going to have the same experience in IGEL as they would on, like a Windows machine or on a Mac workstation or something like that. So what they've done there is really cool and very innovative.
Can you just talk to me a little bit about the architecture behind what PrinterLogic does and maybe how it works with a UDI with what IGEL's doing?
As a whole, the architecture of PrinterLogic, really there's two ways we can do things. We can go on-premises with an application server if that's what a customer wants, or we can host in a cloud. There's also like private cloud variations and things like that, but for the most part, that's really what we're dealing with. So the rest of the architecture basically just requires a client agent to be pushed out to the workstation, and that's where we sit with like the UMS. You can actually use IGEL's UMS to push our client agent down to the different workstations. Now, maybe your fleet doesn't entirely consist of thin or zero clients and things like that. Maybe you have some regular workstations in there that aren't virtualized necessarily. You can use our platform to manage all of that in a single pane of glass. So all we're requiring is that you're connected from our application server, wherever that resides in the cloud or on-prem. Over port 443, you're connecting down to that client. You're pushing communications down like a deployment of a printer, driver settings, and then you're receiving a little bit of metadata on the uptake for that. So you're getting like a reporting suite that's going to tell you who's printing what and where and how much it's costing. So that's kind of, from an architecture perspective, it's pretty simple how our solution works. and I mean the integration with IGEL, pretty straightforward to be able to push out that client from that universal management suite. So that's kind of how we work together there.
The challenges are, it used to be you couldn't take your Mac to work. Sorry, we don't do Mac. We're a Windows shop. Now every work environment is some combination of Windows and Google and Mac, and they got iOS and Android, and out at the edge they've got IGEL. You're able to work across all of that, right?
And that's a really interesting perspective. It's so true to the actual environment of any customer that we're going to approach. They're not going to have a standard fleet of just like Windows 7 devices switching over to Windows 10, so they've got an OS migration already slated. But yeah, that's the reality of an organization, is you're not going to have all HP devices or Xerox devices or whatever they may be. You're not going to have just Zebra label printers. You're not just going to have Windows 7, Windows 10, Mac, all that kind of stuff. You're not going to have just one. You're probably going to have a very diverse environment. And with our platform, we're able to support all of those. We treat them the same way. We use any signed driver, so we really don't have very many limitations at all in terms of what kind of printer we can support. As long as it's a network printer and we can push our client to a workstation or provide that mobile solution that I was talking about earlier, we can really approach a solid print management solution for literally the entire fleet in an organization.
Amazing. Well, Eric, thanks for being with us today. Really appreciate it.
Yeah,
All
sure.
the best to you and PrinterLogic.
All right, thank you very much. Appreciate it.